Hi, my name is Revital Shmerling, and this is OperaTalk, Livermore Valley Opera's production that brings the artist to your home. Our guest today portrayed many leading roles in the United States, worked with different opera companies, including Livermore Valley Opera, and performed in Lincoln Center and Carnegie Hall. A few years ago, she relocated and now having a rising career in Europe. We want to welcome the wonderful soprano, Emma McNairy.
Thank you so much.
So, hello, Emma. And before we start, I want to ask you, where are you now? As I said, you are in Europe. If you can share your location and also the time zone.
Yeah, so I'm in Berlin, Germany, and it's 9 p.m. and I'm in my kitchen. And yeah, it's dark out. It gets dark really early here. So it's been dark for a good 5 hours already.
Yeah, so we're recording this. This is January right now. This is 12 noon for us and 9 p.m. at your time.
Yes.
Yeah. And so you're in Berlin, in Europe. That sounds very far. And although our first guest, Nicola Prince, she also mentioned she would like to move to Berlin. So if you can tell me what's the attraction to that city? I mean, I hear so many singers that wants to live there or work there. What's so special about Berlin?
Yeah, I'm friends with Nika, so I can imagine why they would want to be here as well. There's a huge art scene, there's a huge opera scene. There's three like major opera houses. There's the Deutsche Oper, there's the Staatsoper, and there's the Komische Oper, which are like, well, without COVID, they're performing. You can go to a different opera house like 4 or 5 times a week and see something different every night, like just as an audience member, not to mention if you actually get to perform with one of them, that would be amazing. And there's the Philharmonic here, there's the Deutsche Symphonieorchester here. So there's like, it's a really diverse place, like with a lot of different options as an artist to be. And if you want to be in Germany in general to get into the German system, it's a good place to be based out of. So you can take a train and you're, 5 hours away from Dusseldorf, or 2 hours from Hamburg. Or so if you have auditions in different places, it's generally a really nice place to be, and it's just a really like world famous, amazing historical city.
So it's like Vienna of maybe Mozart time, right? Because
Yeah,
Mozart wanted to live in Vienna and he left his family, he left his dad to be in the center of culture. Would you
yeah,
consider Berlin for opera singers as such city?
I would say so. I would say Vienna is still as well. I love Vienna. It's an amazing city still for singers as well. But Berlin it's a very young city. It's a very exciting city. There's a huge, just like subculture, like of, I'm not so much into it, but like techno and dance and like parties and things like this, which is not why I'm here, truthfully. But I know people are really drawn to that, and it's very diverse compared to the rest of Germany, and it's very exciting. It's a really exciting place to live, not in Corona. Right now, we're in lockdown, and it is not exciting to live here. It's very difficult to live here.
Yeah, everything. I can imagine everything is just shut down.
Yes.
Um, yeah. And let me ask you, how did you start your professional way in Berlin? I mean, did you know anyone? Did you have a great audition, or did you have an agent that helped you? I mean, it's hard to get started in a different country, different city, maybe with a different language.
Yeah. So I actually haven't sung in Berlin. I was fest, which means full-time employed at Theater Lübeck, which is about 2.5 hour, 3 hour drive from here on the Ostsee, which is the Baltic Sea, so a little north of Hamburg. And so I didn't technically live like full-time in Berlin until this summer when I moved here. because I quit my job there, because I'd been there for 4 years already, and I felt like I wanted to move on and do more guest engagements and live in a city I really loved, a big city instead of a quite smaller city. Yeah, because I lived here before in 2012, but like only 3 months at a time because I was on a tourist visa. So I would be like 3 months here, and then I would have 3 operas to do in the States for a few months, or a concert or something, and I would go back to the States, and then you're allowed to be in Europe again for 3 more months, like so 6 months of the year in total. So I did that between 2012 and 2015. I was working with an agent that I got also in 2012, and yeah, they sent me on auditions, and finally I did, like, the third audition I did with them for a fest contract was in Lübeck, and they called me like the day before, and they were like, Theater Lübeck needs Serenetta, and I'd sung it in 2011 with West Edge Opera in Berkeley. And so they were like, I know you've done the part, and I know that you're in Berlin right now, so Lübeck's not so far, so maybe you could like take a train the next day. I was like,
Yeah.
yes, yes, you just say yes, so you go. And I actually like missed my first train. It's like, so it was a little late, not to the audition, but you know, I planned it, but it was a very stressful morning. And I got there and I got the job on the spot, essentially. Like, I knew once I sang and they worked with me a little bit that I got it. And then I got an email like 30 minutes later from my agent saying, not only do they want you to do the Sabinetta, like as a I thought it was just for a guest contract, so like one opera, like for the season,
Yeah.
like 14 performances throughout the season. They were like, we want you to actually join the ensemble, we want you to be fest, and so they created a position for me. So I did 5 premieres my first season there, so I was super busy my first season, which was great. It was exactly what I wanted, and I don't know if you want me to start talking about like
So so in terms of so you started with Ensemble Lubeck for 4 years, and now you wanted to have your own path, or
Yeah, I did all of that. I quit before COVID happened. Like, in hindsight, it was not a smart move, but nobody knew. You know, I quit. Like, you have to quit. You have to tell them before October, essentially. And
yeah.
so I told them in 2019 in September that, you know, I've enjoyed my 4 years here. I feel like I want to move on. I want to do more auditions and like try and have a
Yeah, and they
career.
understand.
Yeah, and they were like, you know, super happy for me and whatever. But and then Corona happened, and technically I've still been fest with them up until December. At the end of December, they let me stay on contract, which was amazing. They're like so nice and so
Yeah.
helpful for me there. Because otherwise it would have been really, really hard. And so
So now let's talk about a little bit about the difference between working in Germany. I don't know about different parts of Europe, working in Germany versus working in the United States. What's so different? I mean, in terms of location, because I know singers here in the United States, they move around. Sometimes they're not at home for 6 months because they have, different engagements in different parts of the United States. I remember I spoke with one singer and he said, "Yeah, I haven't I haven't seen my wife for 5 months." I mean, she comes to premieres and then she goes back to her town. So is it different in Germany?
it can be. So there's 2 ways you can do a career in Germany. Well, there's lots of ways you can do a career, but the ways that most people come here to do it is to have a fest position, and fest just means fixed in German, auf Deutsch. So it just means you belong to one theater and they kind of own you. Like, you have to stay there and you have to have permission to go do any other jobs, because like you don't even know your schedule until the day before, and they just assume that you will be there available to rehearse at 10 a.m. like every day if you're in a production. If you're not in the production that they're doing at the moment, then you have some free time and you can go work with your teacher, or you can travel or do what you want, or do another production if you're so lucky. So that's what a lot of people come to Germany to do. Young singers come to do it. Also singers who want to have a family, who want to stay in one place, who want that security of a monthly paycheck, which means we're not just getting a paycheck, we have health insurance covered, we have pension covered, you have like all of these insurances that you need in Germany covered. So you feel very safe. It was the safest I felt as a singer my whole life. Like it was such a blessing because I like had $50 in my pocket the day I did my Lubeck audition, and like I was like, this is it. Like I have to do well, so I need to survive as a person, and I got it. Thank goodness. Yeah. So also, I know singers who also come here and are lucky enough to just be guests, and they are based in wherever, Berlin, wherever they like to live in Germany or in Europe, and then they're usually working just as a guest doing concerts or operas all around, which is kind of what I was hoping to do before COVID hit.
Right. So let's see an example of the years that you performed in the United States. I believe it was 2014 or 15. I'm not sure. This is with the Livermore Valley Opera. That's the Italian Girl in Algiers, and by Rossini. And you were singing the part of Elvira. Let's watch it together and talk a bit about it a little bit. So that's a long time ago.
I think it was 2016.
16. Okay, 16. Yeah. So in this OperaTalk series, usually I show arias. Arias is when a singer sings solo part, and usually it's emotional in a way. But oftentimes we see in operas small ensembles like duets, or trios, or quartets, sometimes even quintet, which is 5 singers, 4 singers. So what's the difference between singing a solo aria than singing in an ensemble?
I mean, I think singing ensembles is extremely fun, first of all. I mean, singing an aria is fun for its other reasons, but there's somehow a little bit less pressure when you're singing an ensemble and you're with your colleagues and you feel really supported by like not just the music, but everybody singing together, and everybody has like a little part, like somebody will have like an extra run at one part, especially in Rossini, and then somebody does this other part, and it just like really makes magic in a special way. And usually it's like, again, like kind of a heightened moment where people feel so much emotion in that moment, they have to sing about it. You know, that's what people also do when they sing an aria. And opera is all about, we sing the whole time, but I feel like it's like we have recitative as well, which is like kind of the speaking in while you're singing between in the opera throughout the entire opera. And so that like tells the story, and then that heightened moment of like drama happens with the ensemble. So that's what was happening there. And I love the people on stage so much. We had so much fun.
And in terms of, I mean, I could see the way everybody are engaged also with the conductors, because there were a lot of entrances there in that Rossini part that you need to sing dun, dun, like very together. Is that also an issue, singing in a ensemble?
Yeah, you have to be really aware of like multiple things at once. You have to make sure you're maybe not singing too loudly, you know, like if you're singing the highest part, that's just like vibrationally frequency is louder sometimes than like the mezzo. So you want to make sure you're in balance, and you want to all watch the conductor and be exactly on the beat, if not even a little ahead of it sometimes, so you don't drag, especially in Rossini where things get really, really, really fast. Yeah, takes a lot of coordination.
So let's see you now singing solo, and not only solo, the solo with a piano, with a polka camo, and that's from James Toland vocal competition. And you singing Glitter and Be Gay, that's from the opera Candide by Leonard Bernstein. And we'll see you doing all the running, and maybe we can talk about it, about the freedom you have singing that as a solo part.
Enough, enough! I'll take their diamond necklace and show my new stuff by being gay and reckless. Observe how bravely I conceal the dreadful, dreadful shame I
Yeah, Candide. I mean, that's like a really fun aria for me because you get to really act. And the music, like mostly I would say it's a special aria because it's kind of a mad scene, except it's funny. It's like parody. So most mad scenes in opera is like generally a woman who's gone insane, who maybe has killed somebody on stage. You know, it's like very like serious, or she's about to, or something bad is going to happen. And I think that Cunegonda, the character in this moment, I mean, something bad has happened, truthfully, but she's kind of overplaying it and kind of making light of how terrible everything is in her life at that moment. And I think it just gives singers such a chance to just really show off. Like, I totally forgot I did that because I haven't listened to it a long time, but I like put a high F in there. It's like, oh my God, I can't do that anymore, maybe. Like years ago. Yeah, voices change as well. they settle and they get lower sometimes. Yeah, it's you have freedom with your tempo when you're singing an aria because you're with the pianist especially, and they're supposed to follow you generally. You talk about the tempo beforehand. Hopefully you're together. Hopefully they listen to you. Whereas with an orchestra sometimes and a conductor, you have to follow them a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And again, if you can share with us I don't want to say career path. I mean, what led you to become a singer? I mean, when did you start? Were you in a choir, or I mean, did you always know that you're going to be an opera singer?
I did. Well, I didn't know I would. I hoped I would. I wanted to be one. So I grew up in Austin, Texas, and I was in the Austin Children's Choir when I was 8. And they needed kids for the chorus of La Boheme, which is the famous Puccini opera. And so I was 8, and I was on stage and in rehearsals for however long it was, 3 weeks, doing this opera, and I fell in love with it. And we just listened to like the famous Pavarotti Freni recording in my mom's car every time before rehearsal and singing along to every part, making up the Italian. And I just thought it was like the most amazing thing in the world. I mean, I still think it's the most amazing thing in the world. And hearing voices like that, like live, especially like on a recording, yeah, but live is a out of body experience, like the vibration they make and the emotion and just like the commitment to like your entire body being an instrument is really impressive, I think, especially to maybe a little kid. So I kind of told my sister, she was younger than me, I said, Laura, I want to be an opera singer when I grow up. And she just laughed at me like, she was 6. And she was like, you can't be an opera singer. I was like, oh, I can't. Okay. Like, I don't know. And so then I was in Tosca in the children's chorus and I was 10. And then I did Carmen in the kids' chorus and I was 12. And that was when I decided, okay, I think I really want to do this. Like I wasn't sure what I wanted to really kind of do when I was like in 7th grade yet. I read horses a lot as well, so I was like very into horseback riding. But when I really got serious about opera, I was like, okay, I want to take voice lessons. I want to like learn arias. I took Italian lessons like after school when I was a freshman in high school. I went to the fine arts performing school in Austin as well in high school. So people used to call me opera girl in high school. I like jokingly, like nicely, like my friends. But it was like really my whole life. And then when I was a freshman in high school, I got into the adults chorus of Austin Lyric Opera, which is now Austin Opera. And so I was in La Boheme again, but in the chorus, like the real chorus. And then I was with them for 4 seasons. So I did like semi-professional opera chorus my entire high school and did like anything I could, like musical theater, anything, just voice lessons 4 times a week. Like my voice teacher gave me a special deal. Like if you come, you can have as much as you want for this amount, because he knew I wanted to be there like every day. So I did. And then I auditioned for San Francisco Conservatory, and that's how I ended up in the Bay Area when I was 18 doing my undergrad.
Sounds amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's different, I think, from what we saw with other guests that we have. That kind of like I would say stumped into this career, or maybe went to university and said, okay, I'm gonna do major in singing. Also with another thing, and they didn't think that they weren't sure that they're gonna be an opera singer, but you kind of knew it when you were 12. Like
I mean, I didn't.
I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was 12.
I wanted to be. I mean, I didn't sound like I do now. I was like, I was a kid and I wanted to sound operatic and I tried so hard and I wanted to sing Carmen. I am not a mezzo, like I'll never sing Carmen. But, I was just like, I don't know. I made it happen. Like, I just made it happen. I don't know. Maybe I was supposed to be one or I just made it happen because I love it so much. But I'm lucky that I am at least where I am. Like, I didn't know if I would ever make it this far and I want to make it further, but You never know. It's a hard career.
It's a hard career, but definitely, if you got to my OperaTalk, that means you made it.
Exactly.
It's a thing now. So now you are in Germany, and do you speak German already, or do you speak English? Because I know everybody there speaks English as well.
Oh, no, they don't. They still do not speak English here. I mean, people who maybe work at the theater speak English mostly, but no, I speak German every day. You have to. It's like, it's really a fallacy that people in Germany speak English. I would say 7 out of 10 times people don't speak in English. And maybe they speak a little bit because they learn it in school, but they're so afraid to speak it. Like a lot of people, especially older people, or if you're talking about an old Eastern person, they learned Russian in school. They didn't learn English. So it depends if you're talking to an old West German or old East German. And like generally in Berlin, it's a lot of expats here. It's very international and people speak English a lot more here. But I moved to Germany and went to Lübeck. So I did not have the luxury of speaking English to anyone. And I pretty much showed up, like took 1 year of German my senior year in college, I mean at conservatory, so like A1, A2, A1, you know. I ended up being in Germany a lot, so I did take like month intensive courses when I had time. So like 3 or 4 weeks at a time, 4 times a week, 3 hours a day, and that helped. But I was still like very like only here for 1 or 2 months and then back in the States. So you kind of don't practice and you don't have to use it, and it's more like academic, and I could say some things like go to the grocery store. So when I moved to Lübeck in 2016 and I had to get an apartment by myself and I had to sign internet contracts and get a phone and also go to the theater and speak to the theater personnel in German. And they were really nice to me about it. And they were like, oh, your German's so good. I'm like, it's not, not at the time. It's better now, of course, because I worked in it every day for 4 years. And you just learn like theater Deutsch. You just learn on the job. My first day in rehearsals, I was like lost. I was just like, oh my God, like my colleagues, the singers speak English. Like a lot of them aren't even German. They're from all over the world. You know, we have a Scottish guy in our ensemble. We have Koreans, we have Polish, we have like Greek, we have everybody. They all come to Germany to sing because it's such a good opportunity. So we would speak English maybe together, but not the conductor and not the director. Not my first director I worked with. She did not speak English and she did not want to speak English. And so I was like, what is this? Like whispering my colleagues, like, what is that? Like, what did she just say? They're like, oh, it's and they try to explain it to me. And I was like, oh, you know, so you like move to this small town after living in San Francisco, New York, Berlin, like you're used to big city people and big city life. And then you move to a small German, I mean, it's 250,000 people. It's not like a super small place. It's a city, but it's just a different mindset and people are very German, which is what it is. Like, it's just really different than America.
So let's watch together another video of yours from recent years. That's the Coronation of Popea by Monteverdi. And then we can talk about it later and you can tell us where did you sing it and with which company.
Mm-hmm.
racconti intanto di Reggio sì, ma immaginario amanto. No, no, non temo, no, no, non temo, non temo in alcuna. No, no, non temo, no, 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 non temo, non temo, no, 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 non temo, non temo, no, no, non temo in alcuna. Per me guerreggia, guerreggia amor, per me guerreggia, guerreggia amor.
Before you're telling us about this production, what I saw is you're not only singing, you're also
Yeah.
dancing.
Yeah.
What's it all about?
Yeah, so this was my first production in Europe. So it was 2013. It was like my first big international gig tour in the Netherlands. And we did a Dutch tour for 6 months. Well, it was more like 5 months, but I was there for a good like 7 months in general. And it's with a company. At the time, it was called Vocal Lab, and they do like modern operas mostly. Now they're called Silbauze. They changed their name like years ago. And then in collaboration with a breakdance company, who are like a very famous breakdance company, if you know anything about breakdancing world, called Ish. So we did a show called Monteverdish, so like Monteverdi, the composer, with Ish, the troupe. And this was actually the revival of it. So I got to know about it through one of my best friends, who's a singer, Laura Bone, who was singing the Nerone, which is the Poppea's husband role. And she was like, we need a new Poppea, or the Poppea's not doing the next version of it. So, and we didn't even know each other at the time. We were just like Facebook friends. We had the same teacher. And she saw that I did a lot of yoga. And she was like, oh, I think Emma might be really good for the show. Like she's into theater, not just like stand and sing opera, and she can move and is flexible, so maybe she would be perfect. And I had just sung, oh no, was I about to sing? I can't remember now. No, I had just sung Poppeia, like the actual opera at West Edge Opera in 2012, 13. I don't know. I think right before, I can't remember. Yeah, so I just sung it. And so she's like, oh, this is perfect. And so I flew out to the Netherlands at like 6 a.m. like one morning, my first like 3 months in Berlin. And it was one of those things, like I did kind of like a working rehearsal, we call it like an Arbeitsprobe. And although it was in Dutch, not in German, we spoke English. And yeah, they like hired me the same day. It was like the same kind of thing. So it was like my first European gig that gave me like a work permit in Europe, not in Germany, but in Europe. And I got to live in Amsterdam for half the year and create cool theater and hang out with really cool break dancers and also like amazing musicians, because like they all came on tour with us. So we would all like get up at 5 a.m. and go do like 2 shows a day sometimes in different towns. And also for like high schoolers and kids, it would also be like schools and stuff. So
do you have a background in dancing, or is it's the yoga that helps you?
Yeah, I do not have a background in dancing. I mean, maybe a little bit. Like I did some musical theater, so you have to learn kind of how to dance to do certain shows. Like I learned a little bit of tap dance. I took one modern dance class in my life. I took jazz for half a year, and I took hip hop in high school for like maybe 2 years, but like not seriously, just for my own kind of like fun. And because I felt like it was a good skill to have like as a performer, but not because I grew up dancing. I didn't. I've mostly been doing yoga since I was 16, and I've always been flexible, and I did gymnastics as a kid, but I mean kind of like not seriously. And yeah, I think I always wanted to be a dancer, but I'm not. Like I like to dance.
Yeah, but it's nice to see how different skills that you gain, and learn during life. You don't know how it's going to help you at the end,
Exactly.
not at the end, during the way. Like you're doing yoga, and that helps you be flexible and lift yourself in a way that you can be hired as a singer dancer in a way. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's interesting to we don't know sometimes what's going to help us in life. And talking about life, how do you cope now with the COVID situation? What do you do now? Did the theaters in Germany open up for a short windows a few months ago? What's the situation right now?
So They closed down. I did a world premiere on March 6th last year. And then the next day the theater shut down. So we like got in like it was really last show we could have done. And like I remember everybody was like, no, they're not going to shut down the theaters. It's not going to happen. Like we'll continue the season. And I was like, no, I don't think so. I'm watching the news every day. I think it's going to shut down. And it did. And luckily, like, I mean, I didn't get to sing the rest of my season, which meant like a whole other show, and the rest of like this world premiere I didn't get to do. And then we'd only done 3 or 4 performances of this Baroque opera that I was doing last January. So everything was just done, and it was my last season. Like I was really excited for the season. I felt like they were really good roles for me. It was stuff I loved. It was interesting. You know, it was like a good experience to do those roles. And I was like, great, I'll have an end, like a really high ending, and then go off and do other things. And instead it was like, I didn't get to say goodbye to my colleagues, kind of. Things just kind of like ended and nobody knew what was happening. And so I was just hanging out in Lubeck, like in isolation. I mean, I lived with my partner, like we were together at least, but we were just doing nothing for months. I was practicing at home, like, you know, I was just like singing a lot, hoping for things. I had one audition like during that whole time in May, which I didn't get, but like, you know, you prepare for one audition, like everything's canceled. And then we were still going to move to Berlin. So I was kind of like, ooh, okay, I need to figure out how I'm going to afford to live in Berlin. In Germany, we get good benefits for unemployment at least. So I was like, okay, I'll get partial amount of my paycheck. If I move here without a job, I'll be okay. But what I ended up doing was asking the theater to, so they were telling me that the world premiere that was canceled, they said that we want to continue to do it because they have to, because there was a grant for it. So they were going to do it in October, November, December. So I got to do 4 performances in October and 1 in November of this performance. So I asked them if they would keep me on contract, like my normal contract, instead of paying me as a guest, so that I could have like all of my insurances still paid and not to worry so much about moving to a new city and having no paycheck. So thank goodness they did that. And then that ended December 31st. And now I'm working for some friends of mine as their personal assistant. Not singing.
Yeah.
I mean, not getting paid right now to sing anything.
Yeah.
I have competitions coming up. I have auditions possibly coming up. My agent is still working for me. You know, like there's still stuff, hopefully, but people don't know. Like we've been locked down again since November. Theaters have been closed since November 1st, so, or 2nd, or something like this. So it's just like a waiting game. I've been making like recordings with a coach. Like I have voice lessons in a big church, so it's distance. My teacher wears a mask and she's like yelling at me across the church, and I'm like, what? What do I do with my mouth? You know? And it's like, it's just like a really sad, bizarre time for everybody for so many reasons, like not to mention like death and pandemic, like for those reasons, but for artists and for people's livelihoods and their like money. And it's just like a very depressing time. And I'm lucky that I at least have a job. But it's not like a job I love. It's like, it's just a weird random job, you know, which I haven't done a weird random job in years. Like I've been singing full time now for so long, making my money only from that it's kind of weird I'm 32 now to be like doing a job that I would have maybe done at 20, you know, but we do what we have to do to stay afloat.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing with us this, and I'm sure, you know, it will all go away. I don't know if very soon, but in a few months it will go away like it happened before in history. So this is just a phase, yeah, and a challenge it is. But yeah, you'll be fine. I know it. I know. Yeah. So let's watch some photos together of you from different productions, and we can talk very briefly about those photos.
So that's me playing Sophie in Werther by Massenet at Theater Lübeck in 2018 with my wonderful colleague Violetta Hebrowska, who's a Polish mezzo, and she just sang Das Charlotte so well.
And you're a child there?
Well, Sophie's, you can play her at different ages. Like some people really play her like 12. Some people, I play her more like 15.
Okay.
So, but you know, back at the time, 15-year-old was somehow like younger and older. Like she takes care of all the younger kids in the opera.
Yeah.
She kind of takes on a mothering role, even though Charlotte is the older sister.
Cute.
Yeah.
Okay. What's that?
This is Bal im Savoy, which is an operetta by Paul Abraham, who is an amazing operetta composer, German operetta composer. And this was also 2018. This was like my favorite season at Theater Lübeck because I got to do Werther, which is one of my favorite operas, and this, which I got to star in. Again, I got to dance. The tenor I'm with there, he's like a real dancer. He's really a good dancer. So we had a lot of fun. And it's like a whole operetta where I'm speaking German dialogue and comedy the whole time and doing monologues and making jokes in German. And it was like probably the hardest thing like I did in Germany. It was the best thing I did and the hardest because when you're not a German and you've only been speaking German for a few years, to hold a show as like the lead role while doing all of this dialogue with fluent German speakers who are actors, it was like, it brought me to the next level with my language skills.
With the language, great. Yeah. That's you there in the
That's me in the pink. Yeah. So this is Barber of Seville, Rossini again, and I'm singing Rosina, and we had this weird, it's kind of a fun Italian production where there were cartoons in the background, and so like it was an entire video screen, like essentially no set, just we reacted and acted to the video, which were cartoons that this brilliant cartoonist drew. Nice. So it was fun, and so we all look like cartoons as well.
Funny. What's that? That looks like the show, the Popea that you did, right?
That's the Popea, except we did this TEDx event, which is the TED Talks.
Yeah.
They do these on YouTube. So there was a TED Talk, TEDx Amsterdam event at the Concertgebouw, which is like the biggest, amazing concert hall in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. So we got to do this private event and get to do some dancing and singing, and it was really fun.
Nice. That's from?
This is in Beijing in 2011 from, I'm gonna say my favorite summer program I ever did. It was like the best summer of my, no, maybe best summer of my life, probably one of them. And we got to sing, it's called I Sing Beijing, the program is, and now it's called the I Sing Young Artist Festival. And we get to sing with the China National Symphony Orchestra at the big National Center for Performing Arts, which was just built a few years before that. And they treated us like stars. I mean, to spend a month, like longer than a month, like a month and a half in Beijing. And we learned Chinese as a lyric language. So to sing in Chinese, which was really cool and interesting. And then we went back the next winter as well to do more concerts, and I'm still friends with the people there, and it was an amazing summer. China is so cool.
Very nice. That's you. That's you there, right?
That's me on the top. Yeah, in the yellow. That is not a fun costume to sing in. This was the world premiere that we got one performance in before Corona happened.
Oh, okay, March.
We finished in, well, we didn't really finish it, but we did more performances in October and November. So it's L'Européenne, which is a world premiere in German by a South African composer and directed by an African from Burkina Faso, an African film director. So he did this film that's in the background. and then we kind of were playing the film characters on stage.
Okay. And last one, I know it's not from an opera. It's a headshot, but I really like that.
Thank you.
I wanted to put it.
That was in Lubeck at a little theater, and a friend of mine did these photos for free, like the first few months I lived there, and it was like such a nice photo shoot for her to do that.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I had to put it there.
Thank you.
So Emma, we want to thank you for being our guest, even if it's already 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. at your time. It was a pleasure having you today.
It was great being here. Thank you so much.
And for all of you at home, thank you for tuning in. I'm Revital Shmerling from Livermore Valley Opera. See you in the next Opera Talk.